Dear students, today we are going to start Class 8 Civics Chapter 1, the Indian Constitution. Have you ever wondered why we need a constitution? Who has written our constitution? In this chapter, we are going to learn about our constitution, the Indian Constitution, and also about various needs for a constitution. So let's start now. Football, a game all of you are familiar with. Am I right? Dear students, according to the rules of football, if the ball touches the arm of any player, then it is considered as a foul. Similarly, other games like cricket and hockey have their own rules and regulations. Each of these rules help us to define each game and also help us to distinguish or differentiate one game from the another game. So these rules are very essential. Why? These rules help us to define each game and also help us to distinguish or differentiate one game from the another game. As these are fundamental to the game, we can call them the constitutive rules of the game. We can call them the constitutive rules of the game because they are very fundamental to the game. Coming back to our chapter, all of us are living in a society. Am I right? As a citizen of India, we must follow certain rules and regulations. Children, there are around 195 countries across the world, and all those countries have certain sets of rules and regulations. Rules are formed in the country. Rules are part and parcel of every country. A society also has constitutive rules that make it what it is, and that rules help us to differentiate one society from the another society. Did you understand? Like games, a society also has certain constitutive rules, and that constitutive rules help us to define each society and also help us to differentiate one society from the another society. Rules are formed in every country. In modern countries, rules are available in written form known as constitution. So children, what is meant by a constitution? In modern countries, rules are available in the written form, and that is known as constitution. The written set of rules and laws which guides the functioning of the country is known as a constitution. So now you understood what is meant by a constitution. In modern countries, rules are available in written form. Rules are available in written form, and that is known as constitution. Our first topic for today is, why does a country need a constitution? Do we need a constitution? Why does a country need a constitution? The first reason is we need a constitution because the constitution lays out ideals of a nation where we plan to live. Children, the first point is the constitution lays out ideals of a nation where we plan to live. That means the constitution shows us principles of a nation where we aspire to live. In simple words, it means constitution shows us the fundamental or the basic nature of a country. We need a constitution because it shows us the ideals of a nation where we plan to live. And a constitution gives us set of rules agreed by all the people of a given country. Today, most countries in the world have a constitution. Okay, most of the countries have a constitution now, and all democratic nations have constitution. All democratic nations across the world have a constitution, and all nations with constitution are not democratic. All nations with constitution are not democratic, but all democratic nations have a constitution. Is India a democracy? Yes, of course, India is a democracy. India is the largest democracy in the world. Our country, India, is the largest democracy in the world. Okay? We have a constitution. All the democratic nations have a constitution. We will discuss this case of Nepal, one of our neighboring countries, to understand the first point more clearly. Okay, children, Nepal was a monarchy. Till recent, Nepal was a monarchy. What does it mean? Monarchy means a country which is under the control of a very powerful leader. For example, a king or queen. A country which is under the control of a very powerful leader. Till recent, Nepal was a monarchy. And people of Nepal were against the principles of monarchy. So they fought for several decades to get freedom from the king. And finally they succeeded in the year 2006 to put an end to the powers of king. And they became a democratic country. Nepal became a democratic country in the year 2006. And dear students, as per their previous constitution or as per their first constitution adopted in the year 1990, Nepal was a monarchy. Now it is a democracy. Okay, people succeeded in putting an end to the powers of king and they became a democratic country. So in this point, they had to change their constitution. Why? Because their first constitution is based on the ideals of monarchy. So the people of Nepal adopted a new constitution in the year 2015, and that constitution was based on the ideals of democracy. Okay, so we needed constitution because it shows us ideals of a nation where we plan to live. It shows us or it lays out ideals of a nation where we aspire to live. Second point is a constitution defines the nature of a country's political system. A constitution defines nature of a country's political system. That means, in our case, in the case of India, India is a democratic country. So our constitution is based on the ideals of democracy. In India, we have government at the central level, we have government at the state level, and we have different political parties. All this shown in our constitution. Okay, so a constitution defines the nature of a country's political system. In the case of Nepal, their previous constitution was based on the ideals of monarchy, and the present constitution is based on the ideals of democracy. Another point is, in a democracy, we choose our leaders. In a democratic form of government, people have the right to elect their representatives. Okay, in a democracy, we choose our leaders and they exercise powers responsibly on our behalf. But there is a chance of misuse of power by the elected representatives. In a democratic form of government, there is a chance of misuse of power by the elected representatives. In that scenario, the role of constitution is to safeguard the rights of the citizens. Okay, the role of constitution is to safeguard the rights of citizens in case of misuse of power by the elected representatives. Okay, so the second point is a constitution defines the nature of a country's political system. In the case of Nepal, their previous constitution was based on the ideals of monarchy, and their present constitution is based on the principles of democracy. And in a democratic form of government, there is a chance of misuse of power by the elected representatives. In that case, constitution safeguards the rights of citizens. And the third point is to ensure if dominant group is not using their power against less dominant group. The third point is to ensure if a dominant group is not using their power against less dominant group. What is meant by a dominant group or less dominant group? I'll tell you an example so that you will understand what is meant by a dominant group or majority group and less dominant group or minority group. For instance, in a class of 30 students, 22 are boys and 8 are girls. In a class of 30 students, 22 are boys and 8 are girls. In this case, boys group is the majority group or dominant group, and girls group is the minority group or less dominant group. Why? Because boys are more in numbers and girls are very few in numbers. Now you understood what is meant by a dominant group or less dominant group. Dominant group or majority group consists of more number of people, and less dominant group or minority group consists of very less number of people. Okay, so we need a constitution because it ensures if a dominant group is not using their power against less dominant group. A constitution protects minorities and their rights. Constitution protects minorities and their rights. Dear students, every society is prone to the tyranny of the majority. That means every society is likely to suffer from the misuse of power by the majority. Such unhealthy situations can occur in a democratic form of government also. So the role of constitution is to protect the rights and freedom of minorities or less dominant group. Okay, the majority groups may continuously enforce their decisions upon the minorities. A majority group may continuously enforce decisions upon the minority group. So the role of constitution is to safeguard or to ensure minorities are also getting all the rights and freedom that is routinely available to the majority. Okay, children, there are two types of domination. First is inter-community domination, and the second one is intra-community domination. There are mainly two types of domination. The first one is inter-community domination and the second one is intra-community domination. What is meant by inter-community domination? Inter-community domination means one community dominating another community. One community dominating another community. And intra-community domination means members of one community dominating others within the same community. Inter-community domination means one community dominating the another community, and intra-community domination means members of the one community dominating others within the same community. And Constitution prevents inter-community domination and intra-community domination. Okay, so we need a constitution because it ensures whether the dominant group is not using their power against less dominant group. And the fourth point is to save us from ourselves or to protect us from taking decisions that could adversely affect the society as a whole. Interesting point, right? Seems strange also. Fourth point is to save us from ourselves or to protect us from taking decisions that could adversely affect the society as a whole. That means a good constitution does not allow easy overthrow of provisions. A good constitution does not allow easy overthrow of provisions that guarantee freedom of the citizens. For instance, in a democratic form of government, sometimes people might feel that, oh, this party politics became so acrimonious. So acrimonious means so harsh, so rigid. We need a powerful dictator instead of this party politics. But in the long run, this dictatorship may go against all their interest. So, a good constitution does not allow this sudden desire to change the provisions of the constitution that guarantees rights and freedom of the individual. Okay? So, we learned why does a country need a constitution? Do we need a constitution? Yes, of course we need a constitution. The first point is constitution lays out ideals of a nation where we plan to live. The second is constitution defines the nature of a country's political system. Fourth is to ensure if dominant group is not using their power against the less dominant group. In this point, we studied about inter-community domination and intra-community domination. Constitution prevents both inter-community domination and intra-community domination. And last point is to save us from ourselves or to protect us from taking decisions that could adversely affect the society as a whole. So we need a constitution because of all these reasons. Next we are going to learn about our constitution, the Indian Constitution. We already learned the definition of constitution. Am I right? What is a constitution? A constitution is a written set of rules and laws that guides the functioning of a country. Okay, so now we can learn about our constitution, that is the Indian Constitution. Baba Sahib Dr. Ambedkar is known as the father of Indian Constitution. And dear students, in the year 1934, political party called the International Congress demanded for a constituent assembly. Constituent assembly means a group of people who periodically assemble to draft our constitution. A group of people who periodically assembled to draft our constitution is known as a constituent assembly, or in simple words we can say that members of the constituent assemblies draft our constitution. So in the year 1934, International Congress demanded for a constituent assembly to draft the Indian constitution. Even though they demanded it in the year 1934, the Constituent Assembly was formed in the year 1946. The Constituent Assembly was formed in the year 1946. Between December 1946 and November 1949, the Constituent Assembly drafted the Indian Constitution. Between December 1946 and November 1949, the Constituent Assembly drafted a constitution for independent India. That means they took 3 years to draft our constitution. From that sentence itself you can understand the tremendous efforts taken by all the Constituent Assembly members to draft our constitution. And you know children, Indian constitution is the lengthiest constitution in the world. Our constitution is 30 times longer than the constitution of United States of America. And next point is, our constitution came into effect on 26th January 1950. Our constitution came into effect on 26th January 1950. That day we are celebrating as Republic Day. Our constitution was drafted by a group of 300 people and they took 3 years to draft our constitution. Okay, our Constituent Assembly consisted of 300 members and they took 3 years to draft our constitution. Between December 1946 and November 1949, the Constituent Assembly drafted a constitution for independent India. For more than 200 years, we were under the British rulers. At that time, they treated us very brutally. We had no political freedom, we had no decision-making freedom. So, during the British period itself, Indians decided that free India should be a democracy and all the people should be treated equally in the independent India. And another important point is, when the constitution was being written, India was going through a considerable turmoil. When the constitution was being written, India was going through a tough phase. India was going through a tough phase when the constitution was being written. Children, India-Pakistan partition was about to happen. Some of the princely states were unaware of their future. And most importantly, the socio-economic conditions of the vast majority of Indians were pathetic. Most of the Indians were very poor during those days. So all these factors went through the minds of Constituent Assembly members while they drafted the constitution for free India. So they included lot of provisions to uplift the poorer sections of the society. So lot of provisions are given in the constitution to uplift the backward sections of our society. From grade 1 onwards, you have studied that India is famous for its diversity. What does it mean? India is one of the most religiously and ethnically diverse nations in the world. What does it mean? In India, we have different communities. We have different communities based on religion, language, caste, and so on. But as per our constitution, all the communities are equal. There is no difference between one community or any other community. All the communities are treated equally in India. In India, no matter whatever community we belongs to, what matters is the unity of our nation. So the constitution brings together different community based on languages, religions and cultures. In India, we don't have any official religion. All religions are equal in India. Our constitution is a document which respects the diverse nature of our country, and it also preserves our national unity. In India, we have a feeling of togetherness. We have a feeling of belongingness. All of us are patriotic. Our constitution is a document that respects the diverse nature of our country, and also it preserves the national unity. Look at the screen, all of you. The Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru addressing the Constituent Assembly. Our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru addressing the Constituent Assembly. This is Baba Sahib Dr. Ambedkar, the father of our constitution. A constitution plays a very important role in a democratic society. A constitution plays a very important role in a democratic society. India is the largest democracy in the world. That's all for today. Dear students, let's have a quick recap. Today we studied the definition of constitution. What is meant by a constitution? A written set of rules is known as a constitution. After that, we studied about why does a country need a constitution. We need a constitution because it lays out ideals of a nation where we plan to live. Second is it defines the nature of a country's political system. Third is it ensures if a dominant group is not using their power against the less dominant group. And fourth point is to save us from ourselves or to protect us from taking decisions that could adversely affect the society as a whole. Because of all these reasons, we need a constitution. And last, we studied about our constitution, the Indian constitution. Baba Sahib Dr. Ambedkar is known as the father of Indian constitution. Constituent Assembly took 3 years to draft our constitution. Okay, our constitution is a document that respects the diverse nature of our country, and it also preserves national unity. So children, thank you very much. Bye.